Welcome to the National Queen of Light Center. Today, we're going to do a little something different today. Dell and I are here, Father is with us, and I want to speak to you a little bit about what a human act is and the importance of our human acts. And to do that, I have several readings, all of them from volume 20. And recently, Father Dell and I have been in volume 20, and we've been reading about these acts, and I've been very impressed with the depth to which these readings address the human acts and their function in creation, what God intended them for, and how they're used in the ongoing process of creation. And so, with that, I just want to quote from October the 15th, 1926, with a few sentences, and this, what I want you to do is to contemplate these sentences over a period of time and see how the resonance of these words affect your thinking, and then later on at another time we'll come back and maybe expound a little bit on what they have meant to us and how they've opened up our mind and freed our minds in a way that is new to us. But the words are just a little bit, maybe halfway through this reading or just a few pages into it. And we begin with, "Therefore, daughter of my will and newborn in it," means exactly this: to follow all of its acts as faithful daughter. And these are the words. "In fact, you must know that in creation, my will entered the field of action in the human acts of the creature. But in order to act, it wants the act of the creature within its own, so as to carry out its work and be able to say, 'My children, my kingdom is in the midst of my children, and right in the intimate place of their acts.'" And I'm going to leave that alone. I want you to be able to think about that for a little bit. And leaving that, I want to go to November the 4th, 1926. And with that, we'll begin to read November the 4th, 1926, how the Most Holy Virgin was the faithful copy of her Creator and of all creation, how the divine will has the virtue of changing drops of water into sea, the divine will veiled within created things. I was in my continuous state in the supreme will, praying my Queen Mama to help me to impetrate this kingdom of the eternal fiat. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, the most perfect copy of the children of the kingdom of my will was my celestial Mama. Because we had our first daughter in it, redemption would come. Otherwise, had we not the first daughter of our will, I, the eternal Word, would never have descended from heaven. I would never have used nor trusted children who were extraneous to our will in order to descend upon earth. So as you see, a daughter of our will was needed for the coming of the kingdom of redemption. And because she was daughter of the kingdom of the eternal fiat, she was the faithful copy of her Creator and the perfect copy of all creation. She was to enclose all the acts that the supreme will exercises in all created things. And because she had supremacy and sovereignty over all creation, she was to enclose within herself the heavens, the stars, the sun, and everything, so that the copy of the heavens, of the sun, and of the sea, and also of the earth, all flowery, might be found in her sovereignty. Therefore, in looking at my Mama, one could see in her portents never before seen. One could see heavens, one could see a most refulgent sun, one could see crystal clear sea. in which we reflected ourselves in order to see our daughter. One could see earth at springtime, always flowery, which attracted the celestial maker to take his strolls on it. Oh, how beautiful was the celestial sovereign, as we saw in her not only our copy, but all of our works enclosed in her, and this because she enclosed our will within herself. Now for the coming of the kingdom of the supreme fiat, another daughter of our will was needed, because if she were not its daughter, our will could not entrust to her its secrets, its sorrows, its knowledges, its prodigies, its sanctity, its dominions. Just as a father and mother enjoy making their goods known to their children and making their children possess them, even more they would like to possess more to make them more rich and happy. So does my will enjoy making its goods known to its children to make them rich and happy, of a happiness without end. Now in the kingdom of the supreme fiat, we will have the copies of the sovereign queen. I want to pause there because we already talked about what Mary looked like in her humanity. She contained all creation within herself. She had this flowery, beautiful being. She contained the sun. She contained the stars. She contained the seas. She contained everything. All of creation was contained within Mary. She was the reflection of the Trinity on earth. She contained all of creation within herself. And so he's telling us that was for redemption. Now the divine will is going to repeat that act in Louisa to make it known to the children of the divine will. And I'll start here again to repeat. So does my will enjoy making its goods known to its children to make them rich in happiness, of a happiness without end. Now in the kingdom of the supreme fiat, we will have the copies of the sovereign queen. That's the reason I repeated this. In the divine will, in the children of the divine will, we will have copies of Mary. We will be like our most holy mother. We will be copies of her. We will contain all of creation within us. We will contain sun, moon, stars, the heavens, the earth, flowers, seas, everything. We will contain that within us. So she too longs for and waits this divine kingdom on earth in order to have her copies. What a beautiful kingdom it will be, a kingdom of infinite riches, a kingdom of perfect sanctity and of dominion. Our children of this kingdom will all be kings and queens. And I want to pause there again. Our children of this kingdom will all be kings and queens. What God wants to produce with his divine will is kings. Jesus is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. It tells us that in the Bible. In Revelation, he's the King of kings and the Lord of lords. So he's going to have somebody to be kings of. And he's forming these kings and queens in the divine will, and they are copies of his mother. They will enclose all creation within themselves. This is what you need to be thinking about when you're becoming a king or becoming a queen. What the divine will wants to do with you is to make you a copy of Mary. What he wants to do within you is to place all of creation within your being. All that you see outside of you, all that you can't see outside of you, he wants to place inside of you. Everything that you can imagine with your mind, everything you can think of with your mind, he wants to place that inside of you. He wants to place all of creation. They will enclose all creation within themselves. They will have the resemblance, the physiognomy of our celestial Father, and therefore will be the fulfillment of our glory and the crown of our head. Now, if you look up the meaning of the word physiognomy, it has to do with the face. But the deeper meaning of it having to do with the face is you can tell by a person's face through this physiognomy. You can tell through a person's face what their genetic background is. You can see their characteristics. You can see their history. When I look at my son, I can see myself. I can see my genes at work. He takes on that look. He looks like me. So what we are to have is the physiognomy of our celestial Creator. We should have all of His attributes. We should look like Him. When you look at creation, when I look at creation, who do I see? What do I see? I see all the attributes of God. He put creation in place to show me His attributes, who He is, His size, His beauty, His grandeur, His power, all of those things. And when I contemplate nature, I take that into myself. Nature is the entry point into God. Louisa used nature as a place to enter into God. So when you contemplate nature, you enter into God. You take all of nature into yourself, and you enter into God Himself, and you take on His attributes. This is what the divine will wants to do with you. Then I remained thinking about what Jesus had told me, and I thought to myself, before she knew that she was to be the mother of the Word, my mama had no pain or sorrow. More so, since by living within the boundaries of the supreme will, she was happy. Therefore, among the many seas she possessed, she lacked the sea of pains. Yet even without this sea of sorrow, she impetrated the longed-for Redeemer. Jesus, continuing, added, "My daughter, even before knowing that she was to be my mother, my dear mama had her sea of sorrow, and this was the pain of the offenses against her Creator. Oh, how she grieved. And then this pain of hers was animated by a divine will which she possessed, and which contains the virtue of a spring. It has the virtue of changing everything that is done in it, the most little things, the drops of water, into an unending sea. My will does not know how to do small things, but all great. In fact, it was enough for us to open our mouth and say fiat, in order to extend to heaven whose boundaries cannot be seen. One fiat to form a sun that fills all the earth with light, and many other things. This says in clear notes that if my will operates or invests an atom, a little act, that little act becomes a seed, and it lowers itself to do little things. It makes up for them with its regenerative virtue, making of them such a great number that man cannot arrive at counting them all. Who can arrive at counting how many fish and how many species are in the sea? How many birds, how many plants fill the earth? And it's clear what he's talking about here. He's talking about the divine will is the one that operates in each one. The divine will invests itself in each one of our acts, and it multiplies that act to infinity, to a number that we can't conceive of, because our minds won't grasp that high. But it's the divine will entering into a single drop of water that has the ability to create a sea. It invests itself, enters into one act of ours, one human act, and has the ability to create all of creation through one human act. That's the power of the divine will, and that's what the divine will does. Therefore, the little I love you in my will becomes sea of love. The little prayer turns into sea of prayer. The I adore you into a sea of adoration. The little pains into sea of pains. And if the soul repeats her I love you, her adoration, her prayers in my will, and suffers in it, my will arises, forming immense waves of love, of prayers, and of pains, which go to unload themselves into the unending sea of the Eternal One in such a way as to place the love of God and that of the creature in common, because one is the will of both, one and the other. And it's a powerful statement. one I love you, one act of yours, one act of mine in the divine will, invested by the divine will, becomes a sea of love that is deposited in the sea of love that is the Father's, that is the Trinity's, God's sea of love. My sea, my little act is invested in His act. My love becomes as big as His love because it's invested in His love. Because one is the will of both. And this is an important statement because one is the will of both. Because a lot of us are accustomed to differentiating between our will and God's will. And that's appropriate up until you reach the fourth degree. But when you reach the fourth degree, you take possession of the divine will. And taking possession means it's my will. There's no longer a difference between God's will, the divine will, and my will. They're all the same. We have one will. God's will is moving everything I do, moving everything He does, and moving all of creation. When it moves me, it moves all of creation. But they're one will. And so in the fourth degree, we need to quit differentiating between, oh, that's God's will, oh, that's the divine, oh, this would have been my will. That doesn't exist. There's only one will you possess, one will. Therefore, one who lets herself be dominated by my will possesses so many seas for as many acts as she does in it. And while she does little, she has much. She has a divine will which delights in making of the little act of the creature a sea. And only these seas, and only with these seas can she impetrate the longed-for kingdom of the divine fiat. You can pray the Our Father in any condition that you're in. You can pray the Our Father and pray that God send His kingdom down. But in the divine will, you have so much power, your act has so much power that you can call the kingdom down and make it come down. Just like your will moves your finger, you can move the kingdom because you have the power by the divine will to call the kingdom down. So I'm going to read that sentence again. She has a divine will which delights in making the little act of the creature a sea, and only with these seas can she impetrate the longed-for kingdom of the divine will. Impetrate means to cause to come into being by prayer or speaking. This is why our newborn, the little daughter of my will, was needed, so that turning her little pains, her I love you, and everything she does into seas that communicate with the sea of the Eternal One, she can have ascendancy to impetrate the kingdom of my will. After this, I was thinking to myself, when my sweet Jesus speaks about His will, He always touches upon creation for the most part. How is it, Jesus, moving again, told me, my daughter, one who must live in the kingdom of the supreme fiat must have as her beginning, her origin in everything that my will has done and is doing for the love of her. In fact, my will is not loved because it is not known. Now, creation is the speaking life of my will. In all created things, my will is hidden like a noble queen who before going out wants to be recognized. Knowledge will tear the veil that hides it, so as to go out and reign in the midst of His children. Who can make known what my will does for love of creatures with an act ever present better than creation, which is looked at and touched by everyone? My daughter, look at the passionate love of this noble queen. She reaches the point of veiling herself with earth in order to render it firm so that man can walk safely on it. And as he walks over the veil of the earth which hides her, she takes the soles of his feet in her little hands, noble and royal, so that man may not stagger, to give him a firm step. And while holding through Mother Earth the soles of man tightly to her noble breast, She would want to go out, unveiling herself of the veil of earth that covers her, but man walks over her without paying any attention to see who is sustaining his step, who maintains that great mass of earth so firmly for him so that he may not stagger. And the noble queen continues to remain veiled with earth, waiting to be recognized with unspeakable patience, which only a divine will can possess, in order to be loved and to narrate her long story and all that she has done for love of man, veiled by this earth. Her love is so great that many times she feels the necessity to tear that veil of earth which covers her, and making use of her dominion, she shakes the earth, and with her empire hides cities and peoples within her womb, so that man may know that inside that earth, under his feet, there is a will, ruling and dominating, which loves and is not loved, and which sorrowful shakes itself to make itself known. In the gospel, one can read with amazement of when prostrated at the feet of my apostles, I washed their feet, and I did not skip even the perfidious Judas. This act, which the church remembers, was certainly very humble and of unspeakable tenderness, but I did it only once. My will instead descends even lower. It places itself under their feet with a continuous act in order to sustain them, to render the earth firm, so that they may not fall into the abyss. Yet no attention. This noble queen is waiting with invincible patience, veiled for so many centuries, that her will become known. And when it is known, she will tear the many veils that hide her, and she will make known what she has done for so many centuries for love of man. She will say unheard of things, excesses of love, which no one has ever thought about. For this is why when I speak to you about my will, I often speak about creation, because my will is life of all created things, and through them it gives life to all, and this life wants to be known so that the kingdom of the eternal fiat may come. There's a lot to be said here that I don't want to get into, but I'm going to go back to the first sentence we said about the divine will enters into creation, enters into the field of action of creation through the human act. That's where the life pours in. And that life pouring in through the human act gives life to creation itself. And creation itself returns that life to man. And that's how he lives, through the divine will poured through creation. All of the creation was created first, and then man. And man lives supported by the life that flows through creation from the divine will. This is why when I speak to you about my will, I often speak about creation, because my will is life of all created things, and through them it gives life to all. And this life wants to be known so that the kingdom of the eternal fiat may come. Because that's the unicity that Father has talked about. Each one of us, everything in creation and every human being is all necessary. All of our acts are necessary to keep all of life flowing. If one of us, if there is a break in that, life ceases. When Adam fell, God said, on the day that you do this, you shall surely die. And God had to intervene and continue that life. Everywhere my will is veiled. It is veiled in the wind, and from within those veils it brings man its refrigerating freshness by caressing him, and its regenerative breath in order to regenerate him continuously to new life, ever growing in grace. But the noble queen veiled in the wind feels her caresses being rejected into offenses, her freshness into ardors of human passions, and her regenerative breath being returned with a deadly breath against her grace. So she shakes her veils, and the wind turns into fury. With its impetuosity, it sweeps away people, cities, and regions as if they were feathers. making known the power of the noble queen hidden in the wind. There is not one created thing in which my will is not veiled. Therefore all of them are waiting for it to become known, and for the kingdom of the kingdom, and for the coming of the kingdom of the supreme fiat, and all of its triumph. So we can see through this reading a lot of things, but the major thing I think we ought to look at is where it started, and that through the divine will, we are made into copies of our Mother Mary, which is only appropriate. She's our mother. We should have some of her physiognomy also. We should bear a resemblance to her, and that resemblance is that we contain all of creation within us. We contain all of creation within us. That gives us a semblance to our Mother Mary. And to continue reading, because I've got about 3 readings here, and I just want to read through them and occasionally comment on something about them, because taken all together, they make a cohesive statement about what is happening in the world and in us in one human act. November 6, 1926, Jesus promises to bring Louisa to heaven when he has completed his manifestation. The new apostles of the fiat, how one who lives in it centralizes the heavens, the sun, and everything within herself. I felt all oppressed under the weight of the privation of my sweet Jesus. Oh, how I longed for the celestial fatherland in which I will no longer lose sight of him. I will no longer be subjected to the hard martyrdom of feeling like dying without dying. Now, while I was tired and exhausted of waiting, my sweet life, my dear good, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, but all afflicted, as it seemed he was sending chastisements upon the earth, and in order not to give me more pain, he did not want me to see them. But from the way I saw him, I understood that he was sending chastisements, and sighing, he told me, my daughter, courage, let me finish to manifest to you all that is necessary regarding the kingdom of my will, so that nothing may be missing in order to form it in the midst of the human family. Then after I have completed everything, I will quickly bring you into our fatherland. Do you think you will see the full triumph of the kingdom of the eternal fiat before coming to heaven? Its full triumph you will see from heaven. It will happen to you as it happened to me with the kingdom of redemption. I did everything that was needed. I formed the foundation. I gave the laws and the counsels which were needed. I instituted the sacraments. I left the gospel as the rule of their life. I suffered unheard of pains unto death, but while being on earth, I saw little or almost nothing of the fruits and of the carrying out of redemption. After I did everything, having nothing left to do, I entrusted everything to the apostles, that they might be the criers of the kingdom of redemption, so that the fruits of the works I did for the kingdom of redemption might come out. The same will happen for the kingdom of the supreme fiat. We will do it together, my daughter. Your pains, your long sacrifices, your incessant prayers that my kingdom may come soon, and my manifestations about it, I will unite everything together with me and will form the foundations. Once I have completed everything, I will entrust my kingdom to my ministers, so that like second apostles of the kingdom of my will, they may be the criers of it. Do you think that the coming of Father de Francia, who shows so much interest and who has taken to heart the publication of what regards my will, came by chance? No. I myself disposed it. It was a providential act of the supreme will that wants him as first apostle of the divine fiat and proclaimer of it. And since he happens to be the founder of an order, it's easier for him to approach bishops, priests, and people also within his own institute in order to proclaim the kingdom of my will. This is why I assist him so much and I give him special light, because in order to understand my will, it takes great graces, not little lights. It takes a son to comprehend a divine, holy, and eternal will, as well as great disposition on the part of the one whom this office is entrusted. That's another powerful statement. It takes a son to comprehend a divine, holy, and eternal will, as well as great disposition on the part of the one whom this office is entrusted. You have to be in the fourth degree. If you want to fully understand this, you'll understand it in part as you're coming up from the first degree, second degree, third degree. You will understand surface things. But at that time, Jesus is preparing a place in you. He's preparing you, the disposition he is giving you. You're attaining through fiat after fiat after fiat the grace to enter into the fourth degree and become a son, become the son. And when you become the son, then you will have received the fullness, you will have demonstrated the disposition and have received the place in order to receive so much light. It takes a great light to receive a great light. And that's what happens in the processes. And then I myself disposed also the daily coming of the priest in order to find soon the first apostles of my fiat, of the fiat of my kingdom, that they might proclaim that which regards my eternal will. Therefore let me finish first, so that after I have completed it, I may entrust it to the new apostles of my will, and you will be able to come to heaven to see from up there the fruits of the longed-for kingdom of the eternal fiat. Then I continued to do my usual acts in the supreme volition, and I thought to myself, my poor mind goes around through the sea, through the sun, through the heavens, everywhere in order to follow the acts that the adorable will does in the creation. But once I finish going around, I always might find myself at the bottom of my heart exile. Oh, how I would like to at least remain in the blue heavens, to do the office of a star for my Creator. But I would disappear in the midst of the stars, because I am neither beautiful nor shining like the stars. So they would all put me out, throwing me down to the bottom of my long exile. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, one who lives in my will lives in the unity of her Creator, who keeps with himself in his own unity the whole of creation. And just as he keeps creation in his unity, so does he keep the soul who lives in the eternal fiat. This unity brings her all the reflections of her Creator, as well as his unity with all creation, in such a way that the living image of the one who created her can be seen in the soul. That's another thing worth reading again. My daughter, one who lives in my will, lives in the unity of her Creator, who keeps with himself in his own unity the whole of creation. And just as he keeps creation in his unity, so does he keep the soul who lives in the eternal fiat. This unity brings her all the reflections of her Creator, as well as his unity with all creation, in such a way that the living image of the one who created her can be seen in the soul. So through my human acts, I acquire a resemblance to all of creation. Through my human act, as I contemplate in my mind and do the rounds of the soul in creation, in redemption, in sanctification, even the things I think about and do in my mind, they all become an attribute that I possess. As I think it, so I am. As I see it, so I am. That's what a reflector is. I am God's little image of himself, who he has put in creation like a mirror, so that as I stand in front of, in my mind or in my physical presence, any and all parts of his creation, I take on a resemblance. I take on the look. I reflect that leaf, that flower, that blade of grass, that snowflake, that sun, moon, star, wind. I become that. I reflect that. And when you look at me, who do I look like? I take on the physiognomy of my Creator, creation. I take on the reflection of all creation. And as such, when you look at me, you see my Creator. That's physiognomy. And it says, he does this. It doesn't say, I do it. It says, he does that. By maintaining this unity with all, he keeps her at the reflections of all things created by him, and these reflections form the sea, the sun, the heavens, the stars, and all the enchanting varieties of nature in the depth of the soul. And that's what I was just talking about. Therefore, the soul who lives in my will, placed in the blue heavens, would be the most beautiful ornament for this blue vault, such as to astonish heaven and earth. Therefore, my soul, when it is elevated into the blue vault of the heavens, is so beautiful because of my Creator and because of what the divine will has done with me, that I'm the most beautiful star in heaven. Louisa was concerned she'd be too ugly to stay up there with the stars. And God is telling her here, no, you'll be more refulgent, more beautiful than any star that he's put in heaven. Therefore, the soul who lives in my will, placed in the blue heavens, would be the most beautiful ornament for this blue vault, such as to astonish heaven and earth. She would have all within herself her Creator, a heaven, a sun, a sea, everything as her own, nor would she lack even the earth, all flowering, and the sweet singing of the birds, bearer of the joy of the harmonious music of her Creator, because each created thing contains a divine note. Each created thing contains a divine note. Therefore, instead of throwing you down, they would aspire to keep you in their midst, because among the many prodigies which my will contains, it has the power to portray all of our works in the soul and to centralize all of its acts in her. It is not content if it does not see its own beauty in the soul, if it does not find its echo, its joy, and all of itself. So all of creation is a symphony, and all of creation has its own note that is part of this symphony. And when God looks at you, and when you hear a bird sing, and when you, in that song of that bird, you enter into all of creation, and you begin to become part of the song. You become a part of the harmony of that song of that bird. You are harmonious with all of creation. And you sing to God, you sing to Jesus the song, I love you. That's a powerful thing. That's a beautiful thing to be. And this is what God has done in one human act. In one human act, he has created all of creation and the song it sings. And he looks at one human act, and he hears that song. He hears that song, that harmony. He sees himself, and he is content with his creation, that it has done exactly what he wanted it to do, what he created everything for. He receives that contentment that everything is good. He looks at his creation and he says, it is good. And that's with one act. And this is why acts are so important to God, because every act is a symphony. And to move on, November 10th, 1926. These readings are all in sequence now. How one who lives in the divine will encloses all creation within herself and is a reflector of her Creator. Two effects of sin. My days keep alternating between the privations and the short visits of my sweet Jesus. Many times he is like a flash that runs away, and as he runs away, I remain with the piercing nail. When will he come back? And sighing, I called him, my Jesus, come back to your little exiled one. Come back once and for all. Come back to bring me to heaven. Do not leave me in my long exile any longer, for I cannot resist any more. But as much as I called him, my calls were in vain. So abandoning myself in his holy divine will, I did my usual acts as much as I could, going around through the whole creation. And my sweet Jesus, moved to compassion for my poor soul, which could bear no more, put out an arm from within my interior and all pity told me, my daughter, courage. Do not stop. Let your light in my eternal will be continuous. You must know that my will does its continuous office in all created things, and its distinct act is present in each thing. It does not do so in the heavens, what it does in the sun, nor in the sun what it does in the sea. My will has its special act in each thing, and even though my will is one, its acts are innumerable. Now, the soul who lives in it comes to enclose within herself all the acts that my will does in all creation. So she must do what it does in the heavens, in the sun, in the sea, etc. She must enclose everything within herself, so that the soul may follow all the acts of my will, and not only this, but so that my will may receive the return of the act of the creature. Therefore, if your act is not continuous, my will does not wait for you. It follows its course, but it leaves in you the void of its acts, and a certain distance and dissimilarity remains between you and my will. Now you must know of the great good you enclose by enclosing within yourself all that my will does in creation. While you follow its acts, you receive the reflection of the heavens, and the heavens are formed and extended in you. You receive the reflection of the sun, and the sun is formed in you. You remember what I said a while ago? When you think about the sun, when you reflect on the sun, it is reflected in you, and you become the sun. And so it is with every created thing. As you reflect on it, as you go around in your rounds, as you do your human acts, you become all of creation, one thing at a time. And the heavens are formed and extended in you. You receive the reflection of the sun, and the sun is formed in you. You receive the reflection of the sea, and the sea is formed in you. You receive the reflection of the wind, of the flower, of all nature, in sum of everything. And oh, how the heavens that protect, the sun that illuminates, warms and fecundates, the sea that inundates and forms its sea of love, of mercy, of grace, and of strength for the good of all, the wind that purifies and brings rain upon the souls burned by passions, the flower of the perpetual adoration to your Creator, arise from the depth of your soul. This is why the living in my will is the prodigy of prodigies and the true triumph of the supreme fiat, because the soul becomes the reflector of her Creator and all of our works. In fact, only then does our will triumph completely, when it places in the soul all that which it can and knows how to do. It wants to see in her not only the one who created her, but all of his works. It wants to see in her not only the one who created her, but all of his works, and it is not content if she lacks even the most tiny thing that belongs to it. The souls of the supreme fiat will be our works, not incomplete but complete. They will be the new prodigies never before seen or known, either by the earth or by heaven. What will not be the enchantment, the surprise of the very blessed, when they see the first daughter of the divine fiat enter their celestial fatherland? What will not be their contentment, their glory in seeing her carrying her Creator with her and all of his works? The heavens, the sun, the sea, all the flowering earth with its different beauties, they will recognize in her the complete work of the eternal will, because it alone can do these prodigies and these complete works. I have in my imagination an image of all of heaven, all the angels and saints gathered, watching Louisa enter into heaven. And what she looks like is at her center of her, she looks like God. She looks like her Creator. And all around her, all of her attributes are all of the things of the universe and creation. Swirling about her as winds and stars and flowers and lights and all the beautiful things that God ever made, all of his attributes are floating around her. She is a walking creation whose center is God. I can't imagine, beautiful as it really is, but that's a beautiful thought. They will recognize in her the complete work of the eternal will, because it alone can do these prodigies and these complete works. So she's going to be the most glorious thing almost that ever entered heaven. She is something that the angels and saints have never seen. She is their astonishment, to their great and complete astonishment. What will not be their contentment, their glory in seeing her, carrying her Creator with her, with all his works. And this being Louisa, this is also every child of the divine will who reaches the 4th degree. Upon your entrance into heaven, you're going to carry your Creator and all of creation with you. You're going to light up heaven with a new prodigy, a new thing. Then I continued my abandonment in the eternal fiat in order to receive its reflections, and my sweet Jesus added, my daughter, my celestial mama, was the first to occupy the first place in heaven as daughter of the supreme will, and because she was the first, she keeps around herself a place for all the children of the supreme fiat. Now you think about that. Mary was the first. She inhabits the highest spot in heaven, a spot befitting her. She's the queen of all creation, queen of heaven. She's the queen. And who is it that she's reserved a spot for all around her? In the first row, in the first ring, in the hierarchy? The children of the supreme fiat. Therefore, around the queen of heaven, many empty places can be seen which cannot be occupied by other than her copies. And since she was the first from the generation of my will, the kingdom of the fiat will also be called the kingdom of the Virgin. Oh, how the sovereignty over all creation will be recognized in these children of ours. In fact, by virtue of my will, these will enjoy dissoluble bonds with all created things. They will be in continuous relations of communication with them. They will be the true children in whom the eternal Creator will feel honored and glorified to have them as children, because he will recognize in them his own operating will, which has reproduced his true images. There's that physiognomy again. I'm going to learn to love that word. Afterwards, I was thinking to myself, before sinning, my first father, Adam, possessed all these bonds and relations of communication with all creation, because by possessing the supreme will as whole, it was as though natural for him to feel within himself all the communications with all the things in which it operated. Now, in withdrawing from this will so holy, did he not feel the tearing he made from all creation, the snapping of all the communications, and of all bonds with it, broken as though in one single breath? If by just thinking of whether I should not do an act or not, and by just hesitating, I feel that the heavens tremble, the sun withdraws, and all creation is shaken, and is in the act of leaving me alone, so much so that I myself tremble together with them, and frightened immediately, without hesitating, I do that which I have to do. How could he not feel this tearing so harrowing and cruel? And Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, Adam felt this tearing so harrowing, but in spite of this, he fell into the maze of his human will, which gave him no more peace, either to him or to his posterity. All creation withdrew from him as though in one single breath, and since happiness, peace, strength, sovereignty, and everything withdrew, he remained alone with himself. Poor Adam, how much it cost him to withdraw from my will, just by feeling isolated, no longer surrounded by the cortege of the whole creation. He felt such fright and horror that he became the fearful man. He feared everything, even my own works, and with reason, because it is said, one who is not with me is against me. Since he was no longer linked with them, by justice they were to place themselves against him. Poor Adam, there is much reason to have compassion for him. He had no example of anyone else who might have fallen, and of the great evil that would occur, so that he would be watchful in order not to fall. He had no idea of evil. In fact, my daughter, the evil, the sin, the fall of someone else has two effects. For one who is evil and wants to fall, it serves as an example, as a spur, as an incentive to fall into the abyss of evil. For one who is good and does not want to fall, it serves as an antidote, as a deterrent, as help and defense so as not to fall. In fact, seeing the great evil, the The misfortune of the other serves as an example in order not to fall and follow the same path, so as not to find oneself in that same misfortune. So the evil of someone else makes one be watchful and on guard. Therefore the fall of Adam is a great help, a lesson, and a call for you, while he had no lesson of evil, because then evil did not exist. And this is the last reading, and it's a powerful reading because it tells of what happens should you decide. And let's get this straight. In the fourth degree, you can't go against the divine will. You don't have it within you to step out of the divine will. I don't know what the word is, but once you become in the divine will, once you step into the fourth degree, once you become light and love, you can't do anything else. You can't operate in any other way than the divine will. You cannot not do the will of God, because you only have one motivator, and that's your will. And your will is the divine will. How are you going to move without a will? And the only will you have to move by is the divine will. But we're going to discuss some things that theoretically would happen if you stepped out of the divine will. And the reason I say this is because there's so many people that want to say, oh, I did this and I went out of the divine will. Oh, I did this. Well, that's okay if you're in the third degree down. But in the fourth degree, that's only theory. You cannot step out. By not following the divine will in the creation, the soul would lack the reflection of its works. Great graces are needed for the sanctity of living in the holy will. I was doing my usual acts in the divine will, and I thought to myself, if I spent one day without doing these acts, what would be the good I would lose and the evil I would do? And my always lovable Jesus told me, my daughter, do you know what you would do? By not doing your acts in my will, you would lack the reflection of all creation. And because you would lack its reflection, on that day the heavens would not extend within you. The sun would not rise. The sea would not flow in you. The new flowering would not bloom over your earth, nor could the joy, the music, the singing of the inhabitants of the air, and the sweet symphony of the spheres be heard in you. My will would not find its echo in you. Therefore it would feel the sorrow that on that day the little daughter of its volition did not give it the return of a heaven for love of it, because she lacked the reflection of its heaven. She did not make the sun rise in return for its eternal light. She did not let it hear the sea flowing, nor its sweet murmuring, nor the darting of the mute inhabitants of the waves. My will would feel all of its acts, the reflection of its works, missing in you, nor could it form its echo in you, and in its sorrow it would say, ah, today my little daughter has not given me a heaven as I have given, nor a sun, a sea, flowers, singing, music, and joy as I have given to her. So she has gone out of my likeness. Her notes have not harmonized with mine. I have loved her with many manifestations and with so much ruling love. She did not. She would see what you would do. My will would not tolerate in you its little daughter, devoid of its works. On hearing this, I said, my Jesus, my love, may it never be that I give this sorrow to your adorable will. You will help me, you will give me more grace, and I will be more attentive in order to receive this reflection, this echo, which your holy will produces in the whole creation, that I may correspond with mine. And see, this is the purpose for us doing these readings today, to find out, to be more attentive, and to find out what it is that each one of our human acts does, what it does in creation, what it does in us, what it does to God. I hate to say, I don't want to use for God as a phrase, but what it does to God. And then in this last reading, he's telling us what he would miss if we had not come to that condition, what he would be missing. On hearing this, I said, my Jesus, my love, may it never be that I give this sorrow to your adorable will. You will help me. You will give me more grace, and I will be more attentive in order to receive this reflection, this echo, which your holy will produces in the whole creation, that I may correspond with mine. And this is, with the knowledge we've received today, we should know more about what it is that happens in one of our acts and what God has done and what it does, the effects of it. And with that knowledge, we should be able to be more attentive and return everything in a more effective manner. Jesus, continuing, added, you must know that great graces are needed in order to form in the soul the sanctity of living in my will. The other sanctities can be formed with little graces because it is not an immense and eternal will that they have to embrace and possess, but its little particles, its commands, its shadows. On the other hand, this soul must possess my will as her own life. She must court it and make of its acts her own acts. Therefore, seas of graces are needed in order to form this sanctity. My will must bilocate in order to extend its own sea in the depth of the soul, and then extend the other sea from the soul herself so as to receive that which befits its sanctity, its unending light, its immensity without boundaries. The goodwill of the soul is nothing but the bottom of the sea which, forming the shore, surrounds the waters in order to form the sea. My daughter, it takes much to sustain and preserve a divine will in the soul, and the divinity, knowing that the creature does not have equivalent things for a will so holy, will hold nothing back. Everything is placed in her, at her disposal, to form the sanctity of living in my will. God himself acts as prime actor and spectator. My humanity gives everything it did, suffered and conquered, which are endless seas, as help of this sanctity, fully divine. The Queen Mama herself places her seas of grace, of love, and of sorrow at her disposal as help, and she feels honored that these may serve a supreme will in order to accomplish the sanctity of the eternal fiat in the creature. Heaven and earth want to give, and they do give, because feeling completely invested by this will, they desire, they yearn to help the fortunate creature to fulfill the purpose of creation, the order of the sanctity of the supreme will wanted from the creature. Therefore, nothing will you lack on the part of your Jesus, more so since this is my long desire, wanted and yearned for and longed for as long as 6,000 years. Excuse me. To see our image reproduced in the creature, our sanctity impressed, our will operating, our works enclosed in her, and our fiat fulfilled. I wanted the enjoyment and to take the pleasure to see our reflector in the creature. Otherwise, creation would be without delight, without amusement, and without harmony for us. Powerful statement. Without the divine will in our acts, doing what the divine will does, the Trinity would not have what they have desired and wanted for so long. It would take the pleasure to see our Creator in the creature, to see our reflector in the creature. Otherwise, creation would be without delight, without amusement, and without harmony for us. Our echo would not find the way through which to resound, our sanctity a place on which to be impressed, our beauty a place in which to shine, our love a place in which to pour itself. Our wisdom and mastery would find no place in which to operate and unfold. Therefore, all of our attributes would remain hampered in their work because they would not find the right material which to form their work to have their reflector. On the other hand, my will disposes this soul in whom it reigns to become suitable material so that our attributes may carry out their delightful crafting. So all the disposition and everything that we go through in all of our lives on this journey, Jesus is turning the material that we were, which is not reflective. Let's say if we were gold, he would take a gold in its raw form, still with the rock and the dirt and the sludge in it, and he would put that rock in a fire, and it would become disposed, melted down over and over again, by fiat, more of the human weakness, more of the sledge and drudge being removed, until he had formed in us a light so bright that we would be the sun. And that sun is a reflector that he has in creation, that he places in creation, so that when he looks at that bright gold mirrored light, he sees what he sees all of his creation reflected in that light. And this is his crafting. We have to become that gold through all the fiats that we go through, all the trials and tests, and all the fiats render us a material that is a proper reflector for the divinity, so that our attributes may carry out their delightful crafting. And that's all the readings. And I don't know how to wrap it up other than what we've talked about as we've gone. The importance of our human acts, why they are so important to God, is because the divine will pours into creation through the human act, and through that pouring gives life to all of creation, and that life flows through all of creation and back through us and back to God as we live and breathe and put our I love you on the acts of God. And every act is a symphony to God that gives him pleasure and gives him fulfillment and satisfaction in his creation. And I don't know how an act would be any more important than that. But I just wanted to bring that out, and it's a powerful thing in my life for me to contemplate every single act in that manner, that is what it does, that it does such a huge and powerful thing.